The DLE, also referred to as Moodle, is undergoing its first significant version change for 4 years on the 26th of July 2023. The majority of changes are aesthetic and layout related, but the system will look a little different. The functionality remains largely the same as it is, however. The upgrade is important to ensure that we have the most accessible, mobile responsive and secure version of Moodle available. This short video will take you through the changes that are going to happen. So we're going to start the video on the existing Moodle dashboard. As you can see, currently we have a left-hand menu, a center column and a right-hand menu. When we move across into Moodle 4, you can see the dashboard is becoming more streamlined to consist of a main center column with a timeline and a course overview section. There's also a collapsible right-hand menu called the block drawer. You will see that the left-hand existing column is gone entirely. The My Courses list, which used to be there, is already in the course overview and always has been, so there's no need for any repetition in a separate menu. You may have also used the Site Home option in this left-hand menu previously to search for courses. This is now replaced in the right-hand block drawer with a Find a Course option. The top section of the dashboard is the timeline. The timeline will show any activities where there is a deadline set. As an example here in the staff view, you can see that there's a link to an assignment that needs to be marked and has one student submission to grade. Just to note, with the timeline from a staff perspective, the deadline given is set by the settings within an assignment where you put a date for you need to grade by. This isn't the deadline of the assignment, this is the deadline any academic sets themselves within the settings to say when the assignment needs to be graded by. Also, to make an assignment deadline appear here, you have to have at least one student submitted to that particular submission. If we look at the same dashboard but from the student's view, it will show any upcoming deadlines that a student has. In the case of an assignment or a quiz, as you can see here, the student has the option to add the submission or attempt the quiz from the main dashboard. If we go back to the staff dashboard, the course overview section is going to be the same for everyone in terms of courses will now be in a list structure which will show the whole module title and the session code. In the existing version, if we jump back into there, you can see that there's a card layout which doesn't allow you to see the full details of the module title and the session code as it will in the list format. The card layout is no longer available in Moodle 4. You can, however, still use the filtered options here if you want to look at all the courses or just the courses for this academic year. In the previous version, you were able to have a section for last accessed courses. This is now appearing in the drop-down menu here. New to Moodle 4, there are two new search options. You can look at a search for any activities that you've got, but also it will allow you to search through any courses that you are enrolled on. Finally, on the dashboard, there have been changes made to the top navigation structure. You can see previously on tools and resources, the list was getting quite long, so this has now been streamlined into two separate lists. This list will have any general tools that staff and students might need to access. Things like email, OneDrive are now available under a user menu where you can see it's my email, my timetable, things that are user specific. Also new this year to the navigation at the top is a student information drop-down, which will mirror the student support resources and links that students can access via the student portal or now via the DLE and Moodle. We're now going to have a look at course layouts in Moodle 4 and see what's changed. If we just go into a course in existing Moodle as a point of reference, just as a reminder, you have three sections currently: left, centre, content and activities, and right hand section that has blocks such as module box, reading list, etc. if when we go into the same course in Moodle 4, what you'll see straight away is that both the left-hand menu and the right-hand menu are now collapsed, and you have your main center content that is built into the default topic layout. New for this year with the topics layout is the ability to collapse the general section. Previously, that was always expanded. Just to note that if you have used the grid format is still available. And if we do a very quick demo, there's one thing that has significantly changed with the grid layout. And if we open up this course, so the grid layout will still be the same. It's limited in, as it always has been, in not being able to see the full title of the section. But when you go into any section now, instead of a pop-out screen that you had previously, your content will be on an embedded Moodle page. This is for accessibility reasons. The pop-out screen that used to house content in the grid layout isn't accessible to screen readers and a number of accessibility tools, so it's been removed from Moodle entirely. So going back to the topics layout and looking at how things may have changed on a course level, what you can now see is if you open up any section, that there are new icons and color coding for activities and content. So you'll see anything that's blue now is labeled as a resource, pink is for assessment, green for communication, and red for collaboration. You'll also see that items are more spaced out, and this is to align with current web design best practice, but the content and activity types that you'll find that are available to use are still the same as they are currently. If in your course you have activity completion enabled, then what was previously a very small checkbox to say whether a student had or hadn't completed an activity is a much more prominent mark as done or done button for students to use. We mentioned previously about a new collapsed left-hand menu, which is now called Course Index. This replaces the previous left-hand menu, which again had a repetitious list of your My Courses. The things that were used in the left-hand menu at a course level, such as participants, grades, are now in the main content menu, which we'll talk about in a minute or two. But just to go back to the course index for a moment, what that will allow you to do is quickly jump in and out of any content within your course. So if I was to click on the forum FAQ activity, it would take me directly into it. I wouldn't need to then go back to the main course menu to choose another activity. I could jump straight into the icebreaker forum using the course index, and again without needing to go back to the main menu. You'll also see when you're in the main menu, as you scroll down, the course index will follow you on the left hand side, so it's a nice quick access menu. Close that for a second. If we now look at changes to the main layout of the course page, which is really the edit mode toggle switch. This replaces the turn editing on button that we had previously, so you now enable your editing with this toggle on and off switch. You'll also notice that the cogwheel that was there previously that opened up additional course level settings has now been moved. If you now look at the main course page, we have this new secondary menu. The secondary menu options will differ depending whether you're at a course level, as we are at the moment, or whether you're at an activity level, which we'll have a look at in a second. But what it does is make visible options that were previously hidden behind cogwheels. If we have a look at one of them in particular, you can see that the option for course reuse, which is the ability to import content from a previous course, is now at this top level. As another example, if we just click into participants, wherever there is a content page that has a more complex menu structure, such as this one, or you'll see it in the assignment grading page, when you open those pages, the content window will be much wider, as you can see here. We mentioned that the right-hand block drawer is a new feature. Behind the block drawer is your Panopto, module box, anything that you had as right-hand blocks previously. you'll find that when your edit mode is on, the ability to add a block should you need to is much more visible and simpler to do than it is in the current Moodle. If we turn editing off, and just a note to say that if you have your block drawer open or your course index open, those panels will remain open for the duration of the time you're in Moodle for that session. So finally, we're going to have a quick look at activities and how they look when they're in edit mode. But just before we do that, we mentioned that the secondary menu that we saw a minute ago was different depending on where you were, whether you were at a course level or, as we're going to look at now, if you're inside an activity. So I'm just going to open up an assessment activity, and what you'll see here is the secondary menu when you're at an activity level, like an assignment, will again show you settings and options that previously were behind drop-down menus or cogwheels. So in an assignment, reveal student identities and advanced grading sits behind a cogwheel or a drop-down, and now this is visible throughout the time you're in the activity itself. What we also will do is have a quick look at the settings, just to show that the settings of most assignments look the same and have stayed largely the same as they were previously. So again, as we mentioned before, a lot of the changes are aesthetic and layout, but the functionality underneath is the same. But before we finish entirely with the assignment tool, I thought we'd have a quick look at just some very slight changes that have happened to the sort of formatting element of the assignment tool for both staff and students. Once you click onto it, and we're in the staff perspective at the moment, you'll just see that the grading summary page has been tidied slightly, in as much as the view all submissions button now is further up the page and much more prominent, reducing the ability to need to scroll. And if we jump across to the student view, in a similar way, if we go into the assignment from a student perspective, what you'll see again is the add submission is much further up the page, again on a tidied summary page, preventing the student from having to scroll down to find the add or edit button once they have submitted. So hopefully you found this quick video useful, and thank you for your time.